Welcome to Season 3 of the Strange, Rare, and Peculiar podcast, a place where we explore the past, present, and future of homeopathy from the perspective of a couple of insiders who have been around the homeo block a couple of times.
Homeo block?
This week on the SRP podcast, Unplugged and Unfiltered, in the kitchen with Denise and Al. Join us for a candid behind-the-scenes convo with Denise Straiges and Alastair Gray. No script, no filter, just real talk about homeopathy, mentorship, and a little kitchen chaos.
Good evening, and good evening.
And it's just straight up evening. There's no good morning, good afternoon, good nothing, because we're in the kitchen.
Well, we are, it's podcast time.
Yeah.
And for full disclosure, there is some bubbles involved in this one. And we're not in our normal spot. We are in the kitchen, and so some of the background noise you're going to hear is our neighbour Bill, who's mowing the lawn. In addition to that, we've got some cabbage that we've just picked from the garden on the, what do you call that,
It's
cast
in the
iron?
cast iron pan with some scapes.
Scapes. And we're about to wash some radishes and talk about dinner. And all of this, for some reason, seems relevant.
Well, there are a few reasons. One is that instead of recording at our usual Friday afternoon time, we took a nap. Because we're absolutely...
And I snored
Oh
like
my God, it's not even funny.
What was it like?
Oh, I mean, I don't... It's...
It was
But it's
mechanical.
always like that. You act like this is a surprise.
Well, it was a surprise to me.
Yeah.
But when I woke myself up.
Yeah, when you wake yourself up, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But we're still recovering from the 12 days of events, like the 12 days of Christmas. We should have done a song like, you know, on the first
day of the
home retreat.
Veronica said to me...
But
and then we could go through the 12 cherries, 8 strawberries.
Well, now you've just switched topics. But the thing is, last night
golden beets.
Last night was supposed to be the first of the homeopathy and integrative medicine classes, but we had like a crazy thing happen. There were power outages around our neighborhood. We didn't lose power, but we lost internet actually from 5 o'clock last night, 5:30, until 10 o'clock this morning.
Until 10 this morning.
To the point where we couldn't even get our emails on our phone. That's never happened.
It made it difficult for you to bust out a webinar.
I could not teach it. But I am really grateful that whatever happened because there is a building next door to where we live that is currently uninhabited. It had been a care facility, and actually, if anybody wants to buy a 26,000 square foot, 3-story sort of modern building that abuts, it's on a couple of acres and it abuts an arboretum, talk to us. We want to turn it into a Hanuman house. I have a lot of ideas for what we could do there. Anyway, but because there was a lot of activity outside, and I saw when I was walking the dog, there was a fire about a block and a half from us where there was smoke billowing out of the ground, and I think that had something to do with all of this activity. Anyway, while we were out, we heard a loud motorized sound in that empty building next door that sounded like, for the Rocky Horror Picture Show fans, when Meatloaf was driving his motorcycle around indoors. So
something my plastic belt.
No plastic belt. Anyway, I had to step away. I had to step away to stir the cabbage. But what
They had a good time.
Hopatootie, bless my soul. Anyway, we called the fire department, which I'm always nervous to call when there's not a fire, and you never know, is something really an emergency. And they said, thank goodness we called, because there was a generator that was about to explode, and they said that we saved ourselves from a giant explosion and what could have been a big fire. So for those of you listening who missed the webinar last night, we were busy saving an explosion.
What were you going to be talking about in your webinar?
Well, I was going to be talking about food. So this webinar series, so every summer we do this thing on homeopathy in the context of integrative medicine, integrative wellness, and looking at all of the ways in which we need to take care of our machines, these bodies, in order to heal. And food is a really big topic, and it's a bit controversial.
And so...
This is not going to work out. I need to get over to the stove.
Well, I'll go to the stove.
You keep talking?
And I'll keep talking, because I want to talk about food and how much I like it. I like it.
It's not hard to tell.
I like food. It's really interesting. Let me tell you a story about food. In my practice over the years, I've learnt 2 really good questions that lead to extraordinarily useful information. The first question is, what's your first memory of food? The second question is, tell me about the kitchen table when you were a kid, or the dining room table when you were a kid. Both of those questions lead to excellent information in a homeopathy that contributes to a good prescription. But I'm wondering, Denise, about you. How would you answer that first question? What's your first memory of food?
Oh, gosh.
How
How
do
do
you
you ask an Italian kid their first memory of food? I actually don't have a first memory of food.
One of the first things I
So
remember
many.
about you was talking to me about the fact that 9 was the lowest number of people you remember
At our dinner table?
at your dinner table.
Well, 7 was the lowest number. It was usually 9.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Well, you grew up in a multi-generational household.
Right.
We were the anchor household.
For me, being the nuclear family, Southern Hemisphere,
Yeah.
contributor,
But I think
7 is a big deal.
so it's a Friday evening and we're making dinner. It's that funny time in the garden where you don't have so much of one thing. Like, for example, in a week or two, there will be so much zucchini that there will be meals where we've got to just make everything zucchini central. But right now we're in this crossover time, so we've got a little bit of a lot of things. And so there's this pasta dish that I love at this time of year that is caramelized zucchini. It's a New York Times recipe if you have the New York Times cooking app. And it's caramelized zucchini with basil. And it is the most delicious way to eat zucchini. Actually, there are several, but because we only have the zucchini are little, there may be 4 inches long, and maybe there were 6 of them. It's not going to give us 2 pounds of it. So we have a cabbage, one of those pointy cabbages, and we have a lot of garlic scapes, and so we're having caramelized onions, cabbage, garlic scapes, and zucchini that will caramelize down to become a pasta sauce. And then we've got, we still have some beets. We're kind of getting to the end of the beets. But what we've been doing, since you can only roast so many beets, and we had a lot of beet salads, but we've got these beautiful beets that have, they're Chioggia beets. If you've never seen one, they have just this gorgeous sort of circular shape. It's almost like a spider web when you cut through it. And so we've been roasting them in the convection oven until they become really these crispy little toppings for salad or for on top of a pasta. So that is going to be delicious. And what else? We've got kohlrabi for a salad, and then we have spinach. So we'll saute spinach, and since we have all these garlic scapes, we're just using tons of scapes instead of oh, that's probably very loud. That's ice clinking in a glass. So we'll have garlic scapes and spinach to make a spinach bomb. Well, instead of tea, you're hearing wine being poured. What is that? What wine is it? Is that a Sancerre? Mm-hmm. It's a Sancerre. Wow. So that's what's happening over here. Now, I think Al brought something up about sort of memories of food, or food as an emotional response mechanism, or feelings we have around food and all of that. But it's also such an incredibly important part of the healing process, because we need people to have well taken care of bodies in order to be able to have the energy to heal. What do you think about that, Mr. who ate lots of that Portuguese chicken for a long time?
I would come at it from a different point of view.
Tell
and
me.
that is, see, when I watch Denise cook, folks, she's meditating. At least.
Well, not right now.
No, but you are a natural.
Oh.
And you've done this and you've also trained.
Yeah.
And you've done this 5,000 times.
It's my happy place.
Right, and it's also your happy place.
I love
And it's
language.
not my intuitive happy place. And so, over the years in my clinical work, I've had to talk to men about how they're feeling themselves.
Oh boy.
You know, well, exactly, it is. It's, oh boy. Or, you know, what do you mean pasta doesn't grow on trees? Or...
There used to be a commercial here in America for, I think the pasta was ranzoni, and there was this woman, and she was in the fields, and she had that sort of, Sicilian kind of look with the scarf on her head and the apron, and she's all voluptuous and everything, and she was harvesting spaghetti from trees. And at the same moment, I was watching this, my grandmother was in the kitchen making homemade pasta. She would make it. We had homemade pasta every Thursday. There's this. She had this thing, the guitarra, like guitar, and it was wood with it was wooden ends with like guitar strings, wires, and they were at different intervals where you would, she would roll the pasta through the machine that, that flattens it out. What do you call that? It's like a thing you roll and it flattens it out. Anyway, and then
The roller.
And then she would roll it over these wires. That's how you would make like spaghetti or tagliatelle or fettuccine, whatever. Anyway, so I was watching television, and the ranzoni lady or whoever it was picking pasta off trees, and my grandmother was going through this big effort, and I went into the kitchen with such confusion, and she smacked me and called me stunad. How stupid are you?
Stunad.
Stunad. Like, what would make you think that spaghetti grows on trees? Like, my entire life it was made by hand in front of me.
So she whacked you with a rolling pin.
With her hand, fried flour on it, backhand, matzad.
Backhand.
They would do, yeah.
Did you get backhanded a lot?
I don't think that's really for discussion.
Okay.
No, not really. I mean,
No.
if I did, Italian women, it was my grandmother and my aunt. It was with a hairbrush or a wooden spoon. But that
Wooden
was
spoon.
now you can't do that. They'll lock you up and throw away the key. But Italian people of a certain age, it was just part of what you did. And you would run, and then it wasn't like,
Catchy.
but it wasn't a big deal. Well, they couldn't run very fast. They were kind of heavy set.
Heavy set Italian ladies.
Cursing and hollering. It wasn't a big. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. I don't want to make more of it than it was. It was.
But that's a hilarious image. Firstly, because I get the voluptuous Sicilian lady in the field.
Yeah.
I get you as I'm going to say as a 6-year-old watching that.
That's probably about 9 or 10. I was old enough where I shouldn't have been fooled.
Right.
Right.
And then the grandma. What did you call her?
Bib.
Bib. You call her Bib?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I mean, grandma, or mostly Bib. She went by Bib. Bibby. Bib.
Bibida. Am I putting this in the...
It's not ready. You have to, we've got these beets on on a little quarter sheet pan that are sliced really thin that are going to go into the convection oven, which would be the equivalent of an air fryer, I guess. And just seasoned with a little salt and garlic powder, and then they crisp up, and then it's kind of like a beet crouton. It's like those Terra chips you can buy. Oh my gosh! But I didn't do this with the slicer. I have a mandolin.
The mandolin.
Which is fine, but
Tell us about the mandolin.
Well, the mandolin I've been okay because it has the grip.
Jeez,
but
God, look at that.
I didn't want to. I used the box grater the other night for some zucchini, and I slipped and I went to the bone. That's twice in a week. And
You
so
should have heard the hollering.
the cussing.
The
I'm not doing it
noises
anymore. I'm
and
not
the
doing
cussing.
it anymore.
You see, in my limited skill set in the kitchen, I know my limits, and the hand grater, I do not go near that dangerous.
No, you really
Beast.
don't. You never have.
And it's just a boundary, isn't it? I just said no.
You
I'm
set
not
a
gonna-
hard boundary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've taken off so much bark from my body with that thing, it's a danger to everybody. And, I was really surprised because you're very precise with your knife work, and
Yeah, that was just, we were talking, it slipped, and it just cut right down to the bone and the blood. Anyway, but is this, I mean, we've been talking about doing a second podcast each week, one that's heavy duty in the homeopathy, the theory and all of that, and then one that's really more about holistic health, a sort of integrative medicine. What are the ways in which, as, you know, we as homeopaths are supporting our clients, what are the ways in which homeopaths can really help their clients and help themselves? What do we really need to do? And the thing that's interesting to me is that the gamut is so broad, right? It used to be, you know, back in the day, you became a vegetarian, and if you became a vegetarian, it was like you wore Birkenstocks. But now, everybody wears Birkenstocks. You can get platform Birkenstocks. I have several pair. When I first got Birkenstocks, my friends laughed at me.
really
Yeah,
bastards.
Lauren said, oh, I was Birkin chic. But you would go to a food co-op and
Redhead Lauren.
yeah,
Okay.
you would have like sawdust on the floor, and it smelled of patchouli and cumin.
The health food store.
The health food store.
Patchouli
yeah,
and cumin.
It's
Yeah,
kind
I
of
remember that. It's
right?
the same in New Zealand with blackcurrant. There's a blackcurrant undertone.
I don't know what that smells like.
It was because they used to juice their own, do juices in vats. So,
Ooh.
you know, you could buy your peanuts in a bucket,
Yeah.
you know, so you got those smells. I worked at the, in Takaka, at the Whole Food Trading Company. The Whole Meal Trading Company? Someone helped me. So it was a summer job,
Yeah.
and I was the least appropriate person for working in this store. It was a cafe.
Uh-huh.
My friend Margaret
Oh.
got the job at mowing the lawns, and I got the job
They
in
got
the
you-
cafe. They
they
mixed
got you
us
two
up.
backwards, yeah.
And so I approached the job just as I did with my previous summer jobs. And my previous summer jobs
Oh, boy.
involved
That's the one being
Cleaning-
a dish pig.
cleaning boilers
Oh, right.
under the university buildings. And the boilers were run on fish oil and coal. It was a disgusting job, but I tell you what, at 10:15, everyone stopped for smoko.
Did you say smoko?
Smoko. Smoko's
Is that
cup
a
of tea.
Oh.
Cup of tea and a cigarette.
Oh.
So when you stop for smoko, that means that you're on your break.
Uh-huh.
And I tell you what, you know, with working men in blue overalls, they take their breaks really seriously. And so you've also got to realise that if you're 10 minutes walk from the cup of tea place in the building where all the trucks and shit are, there's all of that, then you start your smoko walk in time to land so that you've got a 15 or a 20-minute break. It's just the union rules, you know?
Sure.
And so I learned to have my break appropriately. And so
But you didn't smoko.
I didn't smoke, but I certainly drank a cup of tea.
You're good like that?
And so I approached her. I thought that's what being a working person meant. So in my first day at the cafe, there was a conga line of people out the door, and
because
I stopped my job, which was being the dish pig, and I sat down. I made myself a drink, and I sat down at a table, and everyone looked at me like I had three heads because there's a line of traffic out the front, and I'm going, this is not very efficient. They were looking at me as if, you know, I'd farted.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm looking at them like, you're not running a very efficient operation here. You don't have enough staff to cover off on all of our breaks. And
So you just took it upon yourself.
well, I just had my break, you know.
Unauthorized. Completely unauthorized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soon
How'd
after
that
that, the German owners, they were in the middle of a nasty divorce. She smashed the phone. I remember her smashing the phone against the wall
Oh no.
because things weren't going well, and I wasn't helping.
Wow.
She was going, you know, I need new staff. And
This-
because I was taking my appropriate and union designated breaks as was my
As was your want.
as my right my right as a human being.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know that story.
Yeah. So that was my introduction to working in the cafe, and then of course, then I was front of house and taking orders and stuff like that.
Did you have
making
that
toasted sandwiches?
You had that hair, didn't you?
Yeah, I sure
Did you
did.
wear? Did you wear it in a
I was looking
in
good.
a net? Do you have any like a net?
No,
to keep it
we're
out
talking
of the
New Zealand.
food?
We didn't use nets. We didn't use nets for hair. We used nets for catching fish. Even hair nets for catching fish.
Oh no, that's like me using the tights for nut milk.
Oh,
Same
right.
kind of thing. It's a misappropriation of undergarments.
But getting back to the point, the wholemeal trading company
Yeah. Oh, that was the point.
was it smelt of patchouli and nut butter and cumin, but it definitely smelled of black currant. I remember a black currant smell.
See, I'm not familiar with the black currant smell, but I know that's what the first food co-op that I was ever a member of was the Onion River Co-op in Burlington, Vermont.
Right.
When I moved there in 1992, and it was a working food co-op then. It's not now.
Yeah.
But my first co-op job when I went is I had to shovel snow.
Wow.
I was really excited about that. I loved it. Moving from Manhattan.
Were you
from the
shoveling
Upper
snow?
West Side of Manhattan. I felt so like, because I had this, because I had wanted to move to Vermont for so long, and so I had my gear, and I had you know what O'Connell, her jacket, Northern Exposure. She's got that woolen plaid. I had that same jacket.
Really?
Uh huh.
Wow,
I
that's
think
hot.
I told you that.
Wow.
No one's going to want to listen to this.
Can
It's
I tell you another
ridiculous.
story?
This is ridiculous.
Because I realise I've got another story that you don't know about.
Oh, good. Are
And
you
so-
sure it's appropriate for general consumption?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So,
You say that with more confidence than I think you
it was
should
probably
have.
the fourth day. I always have problems on the third and the fourth day in a new job. Once, totally unrelated, but related to what I just said.
Yeah.
I had a call out with 6 fire trucks.
What?
Yeah, because I was in the ceiling and the roofing part of a university building, and I'd been sent up there to go fix the air conditioning duct.
Wait, you? Had they met you at this point?
Well, I had 2 feet, 2 hands. I met the requirements.
Did you have coveralls on? Were you wearing overalls?
Blue
You
overalls.
did have the blue, the
ones that-
uniform.
I told you about that. That's the one that ended up with a lot of chicken in the pocket. That story. Me as because I'm 18.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm working for the, like Parks and Recreation or the services unit of the university, and we're fixing this air conditioning unit, and we've got sheets of aluminium that we've got to wrap around this thing that's blown itself apart.
I'm sorry. I cannot fathom you, first of all, in the overalls. Second of all, doing sort of manual labor in a hot climate.
Hot.
Just
Really hot.
Oh gosh.
Because it's summer.
It's
Every now and again it gets hot in Dunedin.
Yeah.
In the summer.
Oh my gosh.
She's
I'm
cut the cucumbers,
crying.
folks. So
So this salad is kohlrabi,
so I've
cucumber,
got up a
and
ladder and into a
watermelon
very
radish.
small part of the roofing thing. I'm lying down, basically moving things along, and as I'm shifting in a recumbent position like Michelangelo,
I'm crying.
I'm shifting pieces of big aluminium strips. And as I push one, I realise I pushed it and it's hit an object, and I turn around and I see that it's cut through a wire.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a person.
No, a
Oh,
wire.
goodness.
And then there was I remember a noise, and the noise went something like psh, and then
Oh boy.
bing, 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 bing,
Yeah.
and then all the alarms went off. And a number of fire trucks emerged.
Or, as you call it, the fire brigade.
Fire brigade.
Yeah.
With their long walk socks and their whistles and their hats and their truncheons.
What's a truncheon?
Truncheon?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, stick to
Oh.
hit people.
Oh, okay.
Keep the people
Oh
back.
my gosh, I can't.
So there we go. That's the third day thing. But the third day at the hot meal trading company was a little different because they put me on front of house because I was a bit slow with the dishes. So it meant that I needed to take orders to tables.
I'm literally dying over here. I can't fathom this whole.
So I put down a guy's milkshake because it's New Zealand, so it's not like, they didn't know what a smoothie was back in 1980 something. And so it's a milkshake, which then I put down on the table and it toppled, and then boom, down it went, all over him, and his hat was full of milk. He had his hat on the table, but a very expensive camera.
Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah.
This is terrible. This is like.
And so I said an expletive and grabbed all of those objects, none of which belonged to me, of course, and wished them off to the kitchen to wipe them down and get them back as good as new.
You weren't wearing the overalls for this part, were you? Or were you?
No.
You had a different costume.
No, I would have been in the
I don't know that people need to know because people are entrusting us with their education.
Right.
You see.
Let me explain. Honey, let me explain.
Oh my gosh.
When I was between 18 and 20, I exclusively wore these pants that were great.
Oh, we've talked about the pants.
Yeah, these were.
I'm
pants.
waiting for Jen Gaspari to make them because she's made so many. She has fabrication skills and has replicated many things, but no one has turned around and made the diaper pants. You call them happy pants?
Well, but I couldn't remember the word diaper, so I said happy. So I made the happy pants. No, I was in the happy pants.
Oh goodness.
And I was basically a very, very poorly put together dish pig.
I don't know that people would like the term dish pig, but that was the term then.
Oh, totally.
Right.
Excuse me for any offence caused to anybody or animals.
Any porcine.
Or any pork products. But yeah, we were called dish pigs in New Zealand and Australia. The term dish pig is an Australian term as well.
Because they have a term for everything.
Yeah.
What did you say the other day that was a term I thought was an Australian term? It was like one of those shortened things with a Y at the end that makes everything sound jolly. Like brekkie and stuff. What was it? Do you remember?
I don't know, love.
Do you know you didn't ask what I was doing at the same time when you had that job? What one of my first jobs was?
Yeah. What was your first job in the third day?
Well,
you were inside the computer. No, that printer. The amazing.
Oh no, that was when I was in college. The
Orgasmatron.
That was the Linotronic 6000 or whatever. That was when I was in college. I was a typesetter. I paid my way through college as a typesetter working the night shift overnight. And one of the best parts about that job was that one of the accounts was a guy who did a wine newsletter. And so there would be wine tasting. He would taste the wine, he would spit it out. Although he didn't look like he was spitting it out based on the color of his nose. But we would get, those of us who were working in the production team would get the rest of it to take home.
So you would get into an outfit?
No, there was no outfit. It was the Linotronic machine. I tried to find pictures of it because it was like a spaceship sort of thing. It was like wasn't really a spaceship, but it had a seat, like if you were in an open topped rocket, like maybe a glass sort of dome would come over you. But I would sit in it, and then I could type really fast because because I'm so old that girls even in a prep school, we had to take typing class. You had to learn how to type. Everybody. Well, I don't know if it was optional for some people. For whatever reason, it was required for me. I think my family made me do it. They had high aspirations for my secretarial skills. But I could type really fast. I really like typing.
And so you can type lying down. That's what you're saying.
Well, it wasn't lying down. It wasn't like a recumbent this recumbent thing has come up quite a few times tonight, but I was sitting in this machine and I would type. It had like a keyboard and everything, and then and it was sort of early programming. Like it wasn't like bold, wasn't like, command B. It was like whatever, I don't know, whatever the commands. It was programming. And this was in 1983, four maybe? I don't know. I was in college. And then when you were all finished programming this thing, you would, you would press some button, and then the galley would come out, and it would go through it. It was a tube, like a pneumatic tube, like when you were at a bank. And
the money would get sucked up.
Yeah, but this wasn't money. It was type, and then you would have all the type, and then you would cut it and paste it down, right? Because you would do layout. It was called paste up. Layouts and paste up. This was before desktop publishing, which was my next thing. But this was before the job before that. So you have actually been to the place where one of my first jobs was. It was a restaurant that you loved. Do you remember? Well, we bought a car in New Jersey some time ago, and we went to this restaurant, and I told you the story about my job.
You worked for the Gambinos?
Shh, don't use the name.
That restaurant is a good restaurant.
Yeah, it's a really good restaurant, but I had a job that was, it was run by the, and so people would say, how did your family let you have that job? I said, I got the job through my family. And I learned, that's when I learned to pull an espresso.
Oh.
Yeah, that
so
was
it's in
one.
the genes.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would pull espresso, and they would, there was like the teen nightclub night, but then there was also the brunch, and that's when I would pull espresso and make, whatever, some kind of drinks. I don't remember much about it. I was young. I was really young.
You were making cocktails. You were working in the bar.
Yeah.
Of the restaurant.
Yeah, and it was mostly espresso.
Right.
But yeah, that was, the early days.
Was it before or after the mermaid incident?
Oh, good question. I would say, my other early job was I was a mermaid at Sal's Clam Bar in Wildwood, New Jersey. So it was a costume with a design flaw. So there was a fin, it was a sequined bottom outfit. But what they could have done to make it functional was they could have made it so the fin was on the front and my feet could have come out the back so that I could have waddled, on my own volition. But I couldn't, so there's this guy called Richie would carry me from when I got suited up, and he would put me on this, it was like a stump, and I would sit on it, so I was wearing a sequin thing, and then like a sequin tube top, and then I had a headband with seaweed on it, and I would sit there in front of Sal's Clam Bar, and I would hand out menus.
Were you on a plinth?
It was kind of a plinth, but it was really like a.
Folks, I demanded to be taken to this joint.
So we went. I took you there last year, but it's not there anymore.
My image was that she was on the boardwalk.
No.
And it wasn't. It was sort of 2 streets back or 3 blocks back from
It was
the
on
beach.
Rio Grande Avenue.
Rio Grande Avenue.
But it's not there
Wildwood.
anymore. Yeah. It's not there anymore.
Timber.
Mag Wildwood. Oh, extra points for anybody who gets that reference.
That's a good one, isn't it?
Anyway, I think that we have actually just spent all this time, 35 minutes and 35 seconds, talking about not much, weird old stories. It was not food. We're talking about old jobs. I'm not sure that this is what the people want. Of course, I'm not convinced anyone listens to this, and then when people tell us, I really like your podcast, I'm like, people are listening to this business.
All right. Well, let's assume that no one's listened, and then back to your first memory of food.
Like I said, I'm not sure I have a first memory of food. I don't know that I have a standout memory of food, but food was the central focus of my growing up. I mean, we sat at the table for hours every night. But that's, I think, part of growing up in a multi-generational household. Do you remember at my birthday party last year, my friend Kathy, who was one of my closest childhood friends, she was a few of my very old childhood friends, well, not old people, but friends who I've been friends with for forever. And Kathy was talking about how, she was, as my family would say, she was a Medigon. So she was American. They would call them the Medigons or the white people. because we were Southern Italian, and like you know, blonde people. I mean, Northern Italians, they were practically German to my family. They didn't. It was such a different cultural experience. But they, my friend Kathy, she said that she never would have experienced so many of the things that she did, because we would sit around the table for hours,
Right.
and just, you know, laughing and talking, and it was just, you know, multiple course. Not every night wasn't a multiple course meal, but most nights were, and every night had its, you know, had its designated. Like Thursday, when my grandmother made macaroni, they didn't call it pasta, macaroni, and she made it by hand, and that was on a Thursday. And on a Sunday, it was a filled macaroni, so like a stuffed shell, manigot, something, lasagna, something like that. But you know, we would that was a really big deal. So for me, it's not a first memory, but it's like every memory, right?
Amazing. Sounds so rich and wholesome and good.
I wouldn't go that far.
Wow.
It was, no, it's really nice. I've got to check the beets. Oh. Okay, can you describe this?
Whoa, what went in were these thin slices of beetroot that we pulled up from the garden not more than half an hour ago, and what we see now.
No, it's more than a half an hour ago, because we've been on this podcast for 35 minutes.
Well, but what I see now
Ah.
are these crispy
Yeah.
flat croutons that are gonna go on top of the salad.
Or on top of the pasta, or
Delicious.
because so tonight's meal, because it is this time of, you know, lots of things in the garden. So we have, as I mentioned before, the caramelized pasta topping, scapes, onion, zucchini, and cabbage. We've got spinach that will be sautéed into a spinach bomb with scapes, and then kohlrabi, watermelon radish, little cherry tomatoes, and I think the beets will go on top of that. And a cucumber also. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And then maybe
It's amazing. I have to say that for me, having now lived here for 7.5 years, 8 years.
in this house.
in this
yeah.
house, and now so familiar with all of its creatures, and especially the changes of the season. Not the big changes, not the equinox changes, but the daily changes. Like, I now remember what happens in mid-June every year. I've got that experience, and so I know that the lilies, the ditch lilies, are just coming up, right?
Lilium tigrinum.
Lilium tigrinum. We're going to have a garden full of them swaying in a moment.
They're late this year.
Yeah, the irises, the purple swaying, was last week and the week before, and then the lilies come, but that means that the first tomatoes come, and then this, because the
This pasta.
zucchinis, they're going to go crazy. And I didn't plant too many, I only planted 100. I started a little late with the squashes this year.
We have a fun squash thing happening out front. So I love pumpkins. This was something that Alistair was really confused about when he first came to America, which was why Americans have so many pumpkins out and around. And now you love it. Now you want to seek out pumpkins.
Totally.
And then now we've planted so many pumpkins that we can't seek them out anymore. But we had sort of a pile of pumpkins in front of our front door, and then of course we left them until they went, and then there were pumpkin seeds, and now we have opportunistic pumpkins and or gourds growing. So there's this whole thing happening out in front, which is really fun.
There's a festival of unknown gourds.
Can we finish with something which is something that has been really lovely in the kitchen recently, and that is we have been listening to Barbara Kingsolver's book Animal Vegetable Miracle, which was published in
The best book.
I think to listen to on audiobook. It's lovely.
It's fabulous.
And it's published I want to say 2007, maybe 6. It's not a new publication. And of course, if I'm sure so many people listening are familiar with Barbara Kingsolver. She's quite a prolific and amazing author. But she and her family moved back to where she was from, which is in Appalachian village, and they decided that they would live off of only food within a 100-mile radius for a year. And so she takes the reader through a story of their experiences in growing and raising food, and the trials and tribulations, and the beautiful community building that happens around growing food and sharing food. And it's wonderful.
It really is. It's been transformative for me.
Has it?
Yep. I really appreciate the idea of locality.
Yeah.
And the drama and waste of fossil fuel transported food from far-flung places. The consequence of globalization. And I really appreciate now that when it's asparagus season, it's asparagus season.
Yeah.
And when it's not, it's not.
We've been struggling with the strawberry season. We have so many strawberries, but they're also, they're quite, it's been really rainy. And so I think we're winding up freezing a lot of them, which now maybe we'll have strawberry shortcake later in the season in a different way.
I don't think you've ever made strawberry shortcake.
No, I haven't made a gluten-free shortcake. I'll have to do that.
All right. How about tomorrow?
No, not tomorrow, but maybe tomorrow. Well, this has been strange, but fun. This is just
It's rare and
us,
peculiar.
yeah, it's us cooking dinner in the kitchen, and maybe we'll post this and maybe we won't. We'll have to run it by a couple of people to say, is this weirder than the usual weird? But we would love to have conversation about integrative wellness and not just homeopathy.
Yeah.
And I wonder if the homeopathy peeps care. But if you've got ideas about it, let us know.
Well, remembering that we're in the business of the removal of obstacles to cure and
That's
the
true.
imposition of regimen.
Yep.
And that puts food, nutrition, front and center.
It really does. And it's so joyful to be able to cook and share food, and to grow food. I can't believe how lucky we are that we get to grow food. And anything we don't grow, we get at our farmer's market. We try to look at everything we eat and say how much of it is within 100 miles, with the exception of the Manuka honey.
We got the Manuka honey, which has come 12,000.
Yeah.
And the olive oil. But olive oil doesn't count in this conversation.
Mm-mm. All right. Anyway, I need to get back on the stick because this food is ready.
All right.
Hey, thanks
Nice.
everybody.
All right.
If anybody's listening, if this is when we actually post.
See ya.
All right, see ya. Buon appetito.
See.
The Academy of Homeopathy Education provides various pathways through our program depending on your desired outcome. Our acute care homeopathy programs cater to students and medical professionals who aspire to use homeopathy in an acute care setting. We also offer introductory, professional, clinical training, and postgraduate programs. You can learn more at ahe.online.